Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, the mobile university for entrepreneurs. This is the go-to business podcast for educators who want to level up inside and outside of the classroom. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, I am your host, Dr. Will. Now, today's guest is Dr. Chelsee Hudson Jacobs, and we're going to be talking about how do you turn what you are known for into a business. This is the episode for those individuals who you're just starting out or you've been in a game for just a little bit, and we're going to help you gain some gems to gain greater footing into what you're doing. And for those of you who have been here a while and may have forgotten, what was that journey like? Hey, you're in for a treat today. So for those who be listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Simplecast, Stitcher, Spotify, and Audible, will you introduce yourself, Dr. Chelsee?
Yes, hello. Thank you. My name is Dr. Chelsee Hudson Jacobs. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, now living in Dallas, Texas. I am a former teacher, assistant principal, field supervisor, and currently I'm the Texas Clinical Practice Director at Relay Graduate School of Education. And I'm also the founder of Dr. CHJ Consulting. And my mission is to empower teachers to become leaders and realize their limitless potential. And I'm just happy to be here with you today to talk more about my journey and how I started my business.
Awesome. Now, before I get into this, how was that transition of leaving the North to the South? Because I remember when I graduated and I made the transition from being born and raised in Mississippi, and I went out to Boston for 3 years. And it was a real shock to not only the different type of people that I saw and the architecture and all of that, but the weather.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's cold in Boston, right? I'm educated, but to get there and to go, this is a different type of winter here. It took some adjusting for me. So what was that like for you to leave at the North and to come here?
It was a big transition. Most of my family is still in New York. We lived like right around the corner from each other. But I really wanted something different. And, I was actually dating before my husband and I got together. We were dating and he wanted to move to Texas in order to like be closer to his mom. So I was like, okay, I'll consider it. Uh, and so I made the change. Definitely a big difference from New York, but I'm not mad at it. I enjoy the weather. I don't miss New York winters at all. Although in the summertime in Dallas, it can get very very hot. And a lot of my friends they're like, yeah, we'll visit you, but just not in the summer. It's a little too hot for us. But I've been here for a little over 5 years now, and I'm really loving it here. It's always nice to go back and visit New York, but really just trying to establish myself down here, build my family down here. So it's been good. It's been good.
All right. So I'm always curious to how people got to where they are. What did you think you'd be doing when you were growing up? And how did you find yourself in education?
So I knew that I was going to be a teacher since I was younger. I often tell my grad students that I teach, I was that little girl that had like all my teddy bears on the couch, right? I would put my mom's high heels on and pretend that I was teaching them. So that is how early I began to just think of myself as a teacher. My grandma Ruby was also an educator for many years, and she was definitely a big influence on me wanting to get into the field of education. So this is definitely just something that I think it's just always been in me. So it was no surprise when I graduated high school and went to college that, education was going to be a focus for me. And I was lucky enough to start teaching like right out of college and I fell in love with it. But I guess we'll talk more about the transition from there to my business, but it's really just always been a part of me.
When
Yeah.
did you realize that your knowledge and experience could actually become a business?
So I think well, first I have a few family members who they're not educators, but they have their own businesses. So I've been exposed to people who've had that experience of just like having their own thing. So Like, for example, I have a cousin, she's the founder of Curl Cap, and she sells these satin lined backless caps and does creative workshops. So I've learned a lot from her. I have another cousin who he has a business called Chez La Soul, and he sells like body butters and candles and things like that. Another cousin who's had a bunch of different businesses. And I think at first I kind of struggled a little bit because I thought it was amazing that they had their own businesses, they work for themselves, but I felt the issue for me was, like, I don't have, like, a product to sell, have a physical thing that I could make, and I don't know when the turning point was, but then I finally realized, "Wait, I could be the product, like, I can provide services." So I started thinking about things that I'm good at. So at first, of course, I love working with kids, so that came to mind, and I was thinking, maybe I'll start like a daycare business or, maybe a after school program. And I draft like notes and plans that I have in my head in my phone. And I was trying to like plan it out, but I was like, this isn't it. So I started to think about it a little bit more. And I thought about the transition that I had recently made at the time to become a field supervisor. And I really loved working with teachers. So I was like, you know what? I think I want to build a business around this. Like, this is what I'm good at. And I was also in a doctoral program around that time, thinking about like what I want to write my dissertation on. And I reflected on my experience as a young teacher, learning how to become a leader. So I eventually decided that my dissertation would be on exploring teacher leadership behaviors across generations, and that my research would be the foundation of what my business would be. So that's really how I got started with that.
So tell us more about Dr. CHJ
Yep, there.
Consulting, and what were some of the signs that you were ready?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with how I did share with a few people that I wanted to start my business, but I think I kept just making excuses. And I was like, well, first let me finish my doctoral program. And I did that. Then I got engaged. So I'm like planning for a wedding. And at my full-time job, I had gotten a promotion and I was like, okay, cool, this is great. And I got comfortable. But it wasn't until I was actually, again, speaking to one of my cousins about collaborate on something where she needed an educator's perspective and like basically needing my helping design her workshop. And she's like, okay, I want to be able to mention you and your business when this is all said and done. So basically, get your life together. So that's when I realized, okay, now I have someone else who's depending on me to get this going. And I didn't want to hold her up. So that's when I first started to look into, okay, how do I start an LLC, right? And my mother-in-law is also a business owner. And so she helped me figure that process out. And then I started thinking, okay, like what exactly is my business going to be about? I knew I wanted teacher leadership to be my focus and to facilitate workshops for teachers. So that was definitely like the main thing. And this is going to sound a little weird, but a lot of my ideas come to me in my dreams. And one day I woke up and I literally just had all these ideas and I started drafting my full workshop series, which is called Lead Wherever You Are. So I spent the whole day drafting out the series. I just, again, the idea behind it was my belief of teachers and the fact that they can be leaders and you can lead both within and beyond the classroom. And I guess again we'll keep talking more about it, but once I got the LLC, I drafted what I wanted my workshops to look like. I developed my website and then I felt ready to start putting myself out there. I'm like, okay, I have everything that I want to do. So let's just jump in and do it. So
Mm.
yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with putting themselves out there. What has that been like for you?
It has been a struggle. So I I was never really a big social media person. It's funny because I remember when I first went to college, my roommates, they thought I was weird because I didn't have a Facebook. And they're like, "Why don't you have social media? We couldn't find you. We couldn't like learn things about you." But so and also I refused to get on Instagram for the longest time, and my family is always like, "Make an Instagram. We wanna see what's going on in your life," and things like that. I did have a LinkedIn, and I made that shortly after graduating, but I wasn't really, like, active on it. But when I started thinking about my business, I knew if I wanted to get my business out there, I would need to be more visible on social media. So I started posting more, building connections with different people. And I finally made an Instagram for my business. By the way, I need more followers. So if y'all want to follow me at Ask Dr. CHJ, that would be great. But then you have those moments where you post something and nobody likes it. And then it's funny, I go to my husband, I'm like, babe, go on my page, make sure you can see it. I don't think people can see my post. And he's like, yeah, it's there. I see it. And I'm like, okay. They don't care right now. Okay. So that's been an adjustment. But social media has really been a great way to get recognized, to build connections. I believe that's how you found me, and now I have this great opportunity to be on this podcast. And I also presented at my first conference just from someone seeing my page and inviting me to submit a proposal. And I was like, okay, sure. And it was approved. And then it led to me wanting to present at other conferences as well. So that's another thing. I'm currently planning an end of school year brunch workshop for teachers in the Dallas area. And this is the first big event that I am planning. So that's another way of like putting myself out there because I've never done anything like that before. But I'm just proud that I didn't try to talk myself out of it. I'm still putting in the work to plan it, to make it a great event. And right now I'm learning a lot about like how to promote using different resources around me to organize the event. And I'm just, really excited about that. But even just like sending emails and not getting a response, right? And getting comfortable with what might feel like rejection, but still just following up, changing your strategy when you need to. And I've just lastly had to like push myself to do more in person interactions. For my full time role, I work from home. So I've had to like get out there, do some networking events, and that's tough for me because I'm naturally an introvert. I feel like I come alive when I teach and when I'm facilitating. So that has been a really big thing, just trying to get myself out of my comfort zone. But all good things come out of that.
So I wanna tell you what Latasha James, I follow her on YouTube, she's been a guest on my show, and
Okay.
she wears these, shirts and hats that are part of her business where she says, "Make content for people, not algorithms."
Mm. Yeah,
It's about who you're serving and not about that.
absolutely.
Right. So when you look at you're doing it, you've mentioned your workshops. You've mentioned this event that you're going to be putting on later on. What services do you offer, and what role has storytelling played in you stand out?
Yeah. So first, I'll just say, like, the overall goal of my business or my services is to help schools retain their teachers by providing services that make teachers feel supported and valued and help them to come closer to this important work of educating their students. And a lot of this stems from my experience as a young teacher, just trying to figure things out, right? And I kind of was like pulled into different leadership positions while I was still working in the classroom. I was lucky enough to have some great mentors, a principal in particular who she really like took me under her wing and showed me like first like you have a lot of knowledge, like you're a great teacher, you have a lot to offer. So I really just wanted to create something to be that person, that mentor for other teachers, and also just create a space where teachers are together, learning together, right? So there's two sides to my business. First is the one-to-one mentoring, and this is for any teacher who wants support with their classroom instruction, or if they're thinking about exploring their options outside of the classroom, not like leaving the field of education, but if they want to be a school leader, if they want to be a consultant, things like that. I want to be that thought partner for them. And, I think it's really important because teachers may not feel comfortable being fully honest with their assigned school mentor, their leadership team. So I wanted to be that outside person to help them navigate what it is that they're experiencing. And then the other side of my business is my signature lead wherever you are teacher leadership workshop series. And as I mentioned earlier, it stems from my belief that all teachers can and should be leaders in their own way. And it's based on my dissertation research. So for that, I had over 400 participants who, for the study, where I had teachers from different generations complete a teacher leadership self assessment where they rated their teacher leadership behaviors across 7 different categories. And I found that even the younger generation, so Gen Z or like later millennials, they had pretty strong perceptions of themselves as teacher leaders. And then Gen Z in particular really valued diversity and learning from others. And that's why for my workshops, I give participants the opportunity to collaborate with one another. I create different activities for them to engage in so that they can lean on each other to address different areas of need. And I also found, although on average each generation group scored pretty well, there were significant differences between younger and older generations when it came to behaviors connected to self awareness, with younger generations not being as strong. So each of my workshops within the series includes a reflective activity. And I think these experiences are especially important for this new generation of teachers that are coming into the field. And lastly, across all generation groups from the study, leading change was a behavior category that teachers scored the lowest in, and it requires going beyond the basic teaching responsibilities within the classroom. So that's why I believe all teachers can benefit from reflecting on these behaviors and making a plan to strengthen their leadership behaviors. And so the first workshop in this series, it's called Teacher Leader Who. And that's where participants, they revisit their why, they create an educator story and share their thoughts on what leadership is. And then the next part is called The Leader in Me, and they reflect on everyday leaders in their lives and in what ways they lead in their personal lives. The part 3 is the Libra kind of educator. I am a Libra and we like balance. So it's about giving participants the opportunity to rate different areas of their personal and professional lives to create more of an overall balance. And then finally, the last session is closer to my educator dreams. And that involves participants sharing ideas with each other to address needs, and finally creating a vision board of short-term and long-term goals that could help them with if they're remaining in the classroom for the next few years, or if they're thinking about next steps that they need to take to go into administration. And in terms of storytelling and sharing my experiences for the workshop, each activity, I do the activity as well. So I'm sharing my own experiences and reflections through my educator story. I'm sharing the leaders in my life. I'm rating myself, my personal and professional areas. And I'm sharing my goals as a consultant and business owner. So, and I think that's really important as an instructor, as a facilitator, to be vulnerable. Because I appreciate that as a learner when the instructor is, very open and authentic. So that's really important for me as well when it comes to facilitating these workshops.
Earlier, you just mentioned about mentorship when it comes to teachers becoming leaders. Let's
Yeah.
get into mentorship when teachers want to become entrepreneurs. Why is mentorship such a game changer for someone just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think having a mentor, especially for me, has been really important through this process to just keep me knowledgeable and keep me going and keep me from talking myself into like giving up, right? And I know sometimes, it can get frustrating when you don't know how to do something. So it's important to have someone to help guide you in the right direction. And I think I need more mentors at this stage in my life as well, like as I'm making this transition. But I actually did meet with a woman this week who is a leader in education, and she has experience with starting her own business. And she gave me a lot of great advice on like who to connect with and different strategies. And this is actually someone I met at a networking event. So I'm like, okay, I'm learning why it's important to get out there and meet people. But I also had a colleague who was an unofficial mentor for me. And I remember having a conversation with her about like my position at my job at the time, and I was stressed out about like what my future would look like in this particular job, and she encouraged me to think of myself as a brand and not to connect so much of my value to the job. And that conversation just made me focus more on fulfilling my purpose and being in control of what that looked like, whether it was on the job or through my business. So I think having a mentor, as I'm making this transition has been very extremely helpful.
No doubt. Now, people, I want you to rewind and listen to what Doc just said. She just dropped some real knowledge on you right there because a lot of us will tie our identity into the job, into the role we have, into the school district we work for, instead of understanding that your mission, your ministry is about your purpose. And you can do that work anywhere. It does not have to be where you are currently planted.
Right.
So, for those who do not have a mentor, how can they still find avenues to learn and grow?
Yeah, so I think even if you don't have one, like someone in the specific field that you're in, it's important for people to just have like others in their corner, right? Who are going to encourage you. My husband isn't an educator, but he's been so great in terms of just encouraging me and giving me ideas that actually turned out to be helpful. So you might be surprised by, people who you already have in your life who can get you where you need to go. Also, just through like being on social media and things like that, I follow Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas, and I never met her, but I've attended her like online business schools more than once. And she really helped me through her presentations to develop the blueprint for what my business would look like. And she's also created like this community of other consultants in a group, and I've been able to like leverage that group to kind of just learn from others and see like okay, other people are struggling with the same things I am, and also just like seeing other people win and being inspired. Well, that, community has been very helpful as well. Of course, you can do your own research. Google Chat GPT when you need to use it to, learn how to do something. And, like I said, just following people on social media who are doing what you in the field, same field as you, going to conferences and events to learn what others are doing. I think there's still a lot of options if you don't have like that specific, mentor that's like in your field. There's always, people around you that you could pull on.
All right. Dr. Erica has been on the show.
Yes, yes.
I want to throw this out there to you because when you are working with a school or school district, there are different ways to approach it and different ways to get connected. Of course, a principal or someone in central office can see you somewhere and say, hey, we want to bring you in. And if it's under a certain dollar amount, depending on what that school board policy is, they could just come on in. And it's just as easy as that. But if they want to work for you long term, now you're talking about a different type of process because you're maybe talking about a bid, RFP process, or something that is going to be more involved than just someone saying, come on in, we ready for you. What has that been like for you? And on this end, understanding the different processes of getting hired and getting able to work with school districts, and have you educated yourself on how to maneuver that?
Yeah, so I feel like when you're first getting started, you want to just see like who are the educators in your network, like what are the schools that you've worked with before and things like that. And that's a good place to start to try to, talk with them. What's going on in your schools? Like who are the people that I should be talking with? So I think I've learned a lot from just people in my network about like how things work within their schools and getting approved and getting contracts. But I will say that just because you like know the person, there's still other people that you have to talk to, other just things that you have to go through. It's not always just a okay, I know this person. Oh, I like your workshop. Come in tomorrow, right? And we'll pay you to do it. So it's been a process. I'm not gonna lie that it's been a process, but I feel like with each school or district that I speak with, I'm learning something new about like, okay, what do I have to come prepared with? And always making sure that I'm focusing on, what their needs are. And needs are different depending on the school that you go to. So you have to make sure that you are flexible throughout the process. You have to make sure that you are consistent with following up. Sometimes, the school year gets busy, right? So you wanna make sure you're following up and showing that you are serious about, coming in and doing work for the school or the district and just keeping that connection strong, building those relationships. But again, this is something that I'm still navigating, and I just try to take everything as a learning process. So even if, the conversation or, it didn't work out with this school, what can I take from that process as I work on, making this other connection and trying to get this other contract?
So, what's a realistic first win a new entrepreneur should aim for?
I think something as simple as sending that first email to the school leader that you're trying to get in contact with, or if you're doing one to one things with teachers, reaching out to a teacher, scheduling that first meeting, telling someone about your ideas could even be, a good first win. Like, I spoke it into existence, right? Now I can really get things going. And we talked about just putting yourself out there. So I think it's just important to set many goals for yourself along the way. And it could really be whatever you want it to be as long as you're continuing to make progress. So I think it could be different for anyone, but just those small mini wins along the way, it's important to celebrate that.
People who are just starting out, there's a lot to digest, and there's a lot of bumps in the road that you may come upon that even may push you forward or maybe cause you to pause and rethink what you are doing and why you're doing it. What was a misstep you made, and where did you waste too much time early on?
I don't know if it's more of like a misstep, but just like I definitely had a misconception coming into starting a business. So I had this idea that as soon as I post about my business, right, my inbox is gonna be flooded, right? Or as soon as I present at this conference, my business is gonna blow up. It didn't, and that's okay. But I don't think I realized, how much work you really have to put in. Like you have to game plan, like who you want to reach out to, really expressing why does your business matter, right? And you mentioned before, or we talked about before, just like really just staying true to your purpose. Like as long as you are, authentic, right? Like you're sharing what you know, like it's gonna come together with planning and connecting with the right people. So I think, again, I'm still trying to figure that out, but that was definitely like a big misconception that I had in the beginning, and I had a reality check. But I think I wasted the most time trying to get everything to be perfect before I started reaching out to people, or before I started the process of getting an LLC, and like just like I mentioned earlier, trying to make excuses like, oh, well, let me do this first and let me do that first, and then I'll start my business. So I think, it's okay to just try different things. And again, like put yourself out there. And I think a lot of it is trial and error. And it's okay to like do something and it not be perfect that first time that you do it. So I definitely think like I could have started this a lot sooner, but I'm happy where I am now and continuing to make progress.
All right, all these gems, all these gems. Before we go, what do you tell that educator who is listening to this episode and they're sitting on an idea and they haven't started yet?
um I think just get your life together and go for it. Like I had that realization, and when I say get your life together, I don't mean make sure everything's perfect. I mean like get out of your own way and start making things happen. And just you are given that idea for a reason, so don't be afraid to take risks, and you never know what could happen, and you never know who might benefit from your idea. And this is actually me kind of speaking to myself too, and just reminding myself to get out of my own way and, just really believe in what you have and what you know and the impact that it could have on others.
All right. Dr. Chelsea,
Yes.
thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
You're welcome. Now, people, you know how I do this. This podcast episode is going to be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Simplecast, Stitcher, Spotify, and Audible. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share. I need you to listen because I'm trying to grow. So I need you to do that. Give me some reviews. Give me some stars. I want Oprah on the show. I want Jay-Z on the show. I want them to know that we're doing dope things around here. So again, I'd like to thank my guest, Dr. C. Hudson Jacobs, for coming on, and for you for checking out another episode of the Dr. Will Show, the mobile university for entrepreneurs. As always, people, invest in you. EDU. Peace.